Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to part 2 of our final series of videos focusing on viewer-suggested cases. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure to check that out first. We'll be sure to leave a link in the description below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this. It really helps us to continue building the channel. With that out of the way, here is part 2 of another 3 interesting viewer-suggested cases.
On August 17, 2010, 20-year-old Amber Tuckerow decided to go on a last-minute trip with her friend. The friend had asked Amber if she wanted to take a flight with her from their home in Fort McMurray, Alberta, to spend a couple of days in the city of Edmonton. Amber was excited about the trip and decided to take her 14-month-old son Jacob along. When Amber's mother Vivian heard about the plan, she immediately expressed her concerns and tried to convince her not to go. But Amber was quick to brush these concerns aside, saying that she would only be gone for 2 nights and that she would be fine. After arriving in Edmonton, Amber, her son, and her friend checked into a motel in Nisku, just outside Edmonton's city limits in rural Leduc County. Amber and her friend were trying to save money, and it was far cheaper to stay in Nisku than it would have been to find accommodations in Edmonton for 2 nights. The next morning, the group set out for a day of shopping in the city before returning to their hotel for the night. However, shortly after returning, Amber told her friend she wanted to go back to Edmonton and asked her if she would watch Jacob while she hitchhiked into the city. This is where the official record of the case becomes hazy, because no one really knows why Amber insisted on traveling back to Edmonton that night. Some reports allege that Amber simply wanted to go pick up some food, while others say she was excited to go back and didn't want to wait until the following morning. Nonetheless, most sources agree that Amber left the motel in Nisku sometime between 7:30 and 8:30 on August 18th. The last time she was seen alive was hitchhiking into Edmonton and was seen getting into the vehicle of an unknown male. The first sign of trouble came when Vivian realized that Amber was not returning her messages. The two had been in constant contact throughout the trip up until that point, but on the night of the 18th, Amber stopped responding. When her friend reached out the next morning to say that Amber had not returned to the motel, concern turned to panic. What terrified her the most was that Amber had last been seen hitchhiking. Vivian had often talked to her daughter about the dangers associated with hitchhiking, especially for young Indigenous women like her. As a member of the Mikisew Cree First Nation, Vivian was all too familiar with the dilemma faced especially by young people in the community. Hitchhiking is often the only realistic means of getting around rural and isolated areas without adequate public transportation. At the same time, it also left people like her daughter extremely vulnerable to exploitation or attack. As a result, Vivian had always told Amber to use her phone while in a stranger's vehicle, even if she was only pretending to be on a call with someone, as a means of precaution. As soon as she realized that Amber had vanished, Vivian called the Leduc RCMP to report her missing. From the beginning, they reportedly brushed her off, saying that she needed to wait a full 24 hours before a missing persons report could be filed, and that Amber was probably out partying and would get in touch soon. Vivian disagreed, saying that it was unthinkable that her daughter would have taken off and left her 14-month-old son behind. Though Amber failed to return back home, the attitude of investigators changed very little in the following days. Less than 2 weeks after she had disappeared, an RCMP constable recommended that the case be closed and that Amber be removed from the National Missing Persons database. Police claimed that they had received reports that Amber had been sighted in Edmonton and that there was no reason to believe that she was in danger. This was despite the fact that none of these sightings had been confirmed. Unbeknownst to the family, police followed through with their assertion that no crime had been committed and removed Amber's name from the missing persons database. When the family finally learned what had happened, it took an additional month to get her name put back on the list. At the same time, the belongings that Amber had left at the motel room in Nisku were destroyed before they were ever processed. It is unknown why exactly this was the case, though police would later claim that it had happened due to a series of operational mistakes and that officers had, quote, failed to properly follow policy or reasonable investigative practices for securing seized property. According to the family, these were just a few of the setbacks that they faced while the RCMP failed to get the investigation off the ground. Vivian would later say that it took 4 months before she was even interviewed by police. After more than 2 years with little progress made in the case, investigators took the unprecedented step of releasing a short audio clip to the public in the hopes that it might generate new leads. The clip, which is just over a minute long, provided chilling context to the night of Amber's disappearance. In the clip, she is talking to someone on her cell phone and can be heard arguing with an unknown male driver, repeatedly asking him if he is driving the correct way into the city. At one point she says, quote, You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go. Here's that clip.
Where are we by?
We're just heading south of Beaumont, or north of Beaumont.
We're heading north to Beaumont. Yo, where are we going?
Just
No, this is a... Are you fucking kidding me? You better not take me anywhere I don't want to go. I want to go into the city. Jeez. Yo, we're not going into the city, are we?
We're going.
No, we're not.
Yes.
Then what are these roads going to?
50th Street.
50th Street. Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Yo, where are we going?
50th Street.
50th Street?
50th Street.
East, right?
East.
Over down.
Bravo.
Down.
Thanks to reporting from the CBC, it was eventually learned that the full audio clip police obtained was roughly 17 minutes long. Amber had been on the phone with her brother Paul, who was incarcerated at the Edmonton Remand Center at the time, and the call was automatically recorded by the facility. Sadly, on September 1st, 2012, just 4 days after the audio recording was released, a group of horseback riders found part of Amber's remains on a farmer's property in Leduc County. The Edmonton Medical Examiner's Office was able to make a positive identification thanks to dental records. Though a cause of death was not revealed, the case was declared a homicide. RCMP later specified that the timing of the discovery of Amber's remains so close to the release of the audio was merely a coincidence. After the discovery of the remains, the case was handed over to the RCMP's CARE team, a subunit of K Division's Missing Persons Unit created to investigate the deaths of vulnerable missing persons in the Edmonton area. Further efforts were focused on identifying the unknown man in the audio recording that had been released to the public. Other than the disturbing nature of the call itself, the duration of the call was also incriminating. As previously stated, the total length of the phone call was 17 minutes, and it was revealed that this was almost exactly the length of time it would have taken to drive from the motel in Nisku to the area in Leduc County where Amber's remains were discovered. In addition to a poster campaign, billboards were placed along the road near the site of the remains asking people to come forward if they could identify the man based on his voice. Though 3 women ultimately came forward and identified the same man, investigators said that they had looked into the claims and had ruled him out as a person of interest in the investigation. One of the women, who said she believed she had ridden with the man on several occasions, said she knew his voice like the back of her hand and believes that the RCMP did not look very hard before excluding him as a suspect. In March of 2014, Vivian Tuckerow filed an official complaint with the RCMP's Civilian Review and Complaints Commission, arguing that the Leduc RCMP had critically mishandled the investigation into her daughter's murder. A year later, she also took part in Canada's first ever roundtable concerning missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, where she and dozens of other families met with premiers, representatives from 6 Indigenous organizations, and 2 federal cabinet ministers. There, she expressed support for a federal inquiry into the issue to explore existing gaps within the system, particularly when it comes to the procedures for missing persons cases. In 2018, an independent federal review based on Vivian's 2014 complaint found that the Leduc RCMP's investigation into Amber's disappearance was deficient, and numerous elements of the case had been mishandled. Though the review did dispute the family's claim that the errors made in the case were a result of racial bias, it did make 17 recommendations to the RCMP regarding procedure and officer training, which the police force agreed to adopt. This was followed in 2019 by the formal apology from the RCMP to the Tuckerow family for their mishandling of the case. The last major update in the Amber Tuckerow case came in January of 2020 when the RCMP announced that they had been contacted by a man who had repeatedly claimed his father was involved in the case. He also posted several lengthy messages on Facebook detailing why he believed that Amber's murder was not the only one in the area that his father had been involved in. He also claimed that he recognized his father's voice in the audio recording. Police said that they were actively investigating these accusations, but that several of the names that the man mentioned in the cases had previously been solved. The man's identity, as well as his father's, have not been released, and his Facebook posts were removed shortly after they appeared. The final piece of information worth noting is that Amber's family has always been suspicious of the friend that she went away with on her trip, and were reportedly upset that police did not look further into her possible involvement. In the 2018 Federal Review, the woman is referenced numerous times, as is the RCMP's failure to locate her and interview her. In the report, her name was redacted. Sadly, it seems that for now, the investigation into Amber's disappearance and death remains full of loose ends. Due to the handling of the case, it's almost impossible to evaluate likely theories about what happened, other than to say the case is a homicide. Hopefully, the Tuckerill family will soon get the answers they deserve, and after their years-long ordeal, will finally have some semblance of closure.
Do you have an idea for a future video you'd like to see? Tell us about it in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.